guaranteed.
Cool and mostly cloudy with a mix of dry spells and scattered showers. The showers most frequent over eastern counties. Many areas getting sunny breaks. Temperatures 11 to 13 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You're welcome back to Saturday's Off the Ball. Nathan with you till 5 o'clock. So Ireland's Rugby World Cup is over. Hammered 46-14 by New Zealand in Tokyo earlier this morning. We will bring you the Irish press conference. Joe Schmidt speaking possibly for the last time as Ireland coach. We'll bring you that in the next hour. We'll be across to Owen Sheehan as well in just a moment. We are going to be talking a lot of football over the next hour. Positivity, or maybe not, with the week that was for Irish football. But we did get that point in Georgia. Dan McDonnell is here. How are you?
I am, Nathan. You've already christened it the sporting highlight of the last 8 days.
I didn't realise at the time it would be, but it turns out in hindsight, wasn't the worst thing that ever happened. No.
Well, I mean, I suppose the Georgian football team gets to play against us regularly, unlike the rugby one.
Oof. What's your point?
Well, they're very interested.
Don't you be coming in here now and being one of those people?
I'm not, but they're very interested.
No, you can't help yourself, can you?
Maybe what the IRF needs to do is organise more games against Georgia to build a morale over the next period of time, because it's been so useful for the football team's morale.
And Japan,
yeah.
Japan. Do Oman have a rugby team? That's a good point, Neil.
But they've organised a lot of games. They've organised a lot of games against New Zealand. Didn't really help today, did it?
Now that the
is there an out-of-work administrator who can help the IRFU to organise some of these games?
Well, I was just going to ask. Now that our executive vice president is no longer on the scene, is the Oman fixture a thing of the past? Is that relationship?
I think Mazars might be looking into that.
Yeah. It could be a struggle.
They could recommend another Oman friendly down the track. Of course, we are playing New Zealand in football next month.
I mean, look, the FAI social media team missed a trick today. They should have put something out after full time. It's like, come on. You know.
Yeah. Who gets the Mazars? Who gets the IRFU gig now? Mazars or Genesis? Who does the big review?
They don't generally do reviews.
Don't they?
No, they just accept it and move on.
Are you sure? Yeah. Because, well, that's weird because like it's common practice now after an Olympics. There's a review. I thought most of the big bodies.
There was no process instigated after 2007 or anything. No,
it was not.
There was something. I'm trying to remember. I thought they did reviews. I'm sure they do an internal review, but maybe they don't go public.
Yeah. So Kieran Cunningham and Dan McDonnell are with us, keeping an eye on the football for the afternoon. There's 6 games underway in the Premier League. We'll bring you the goals as they happen. Aaron Connolly retaining his place in the Brighton side. Robbie Brady back in the Burnley team. First Premier League start of the season for him. Matt Doherty only among the substitutes for Wolves in their match. And Seamus Coleman was suspended for Everton in their 2-0 victory earlier today, which moved them out of the relegation zone after they beat West Ham. And Jibril Sidibe seemed had quite a good game, which will be a worry certainly for Seamus Coleman as he tries to force his way back into that Everton side. Before we go to Owen, there has been a goal at the new White Hart Lane. Spurs against Watford. Guy Swindle.
Spurs 0, Watford 1. Spurs' season goes from bad to worse. Superb goal. The ball found Janmat on the right-hand side, and his wonderful cross then found the unmarked Decore, who had the easiest of easy jobs to tuck past the keeper. It's Spurs 0, Watford 1.
Yeah, that is a disastrous start for Tottenham, and well, if they end up losing that game, there'll be huge questions about Mauricio Pochettino and whether he can survive that. We'll get back to all that in a moment, but let's go to Tokyo. Owen Sheehan, you're coming home.
I am indeed. Fortunately, probably, that I'm coming home and that it's all over, but unfortunately, from an Irish rugby perspective, that was an absolute and utter shellacking. I think it's fair to say it was horrific. From start to finish, I think there was perhaps was there a glimmer of hope for maybe 2-3 minutes at the start? Outside of that, it was all downhill, completely outclassed, completely outplayed by a far better team in almost every department, from the pack to that unbelievable backline. The All Blacks are just so much better than us, and this is something that perhaps we didn't realise 12 months ago. Perhaps we got carried away with what happened in the Aviva Stadium 12 months ago. Perhaps we did get carried away with what happened in Chicago a couple of years ago, because it seems that when it comes to a World Cup, we can underperform when it matters the most, and the All Blacks tend to turn it on nowadays when it matters the most.
There are few things as exciting in sport as watching the All Blacks in full flow. Do you feel that's what you saw today, that this was the All Blacks almost at the peak of their powers?
Yeah, I think so. I think they were absolutely irresistible at times today. But I think when you've got an All Blacks team in full flow, and it's something that Steve Hansen brought up in the press conference, what you've actually got is a pack that tends to dominate the opposition because it gives the backs the freedom to play. And it's something that perhaps was a little bit lost in the build-up to the game this week. I'm sure it wasn't lost for the Irish management team, but the fact that actually if Ireland managed to get some parity or actually win up front, there was a good chance they would have been in a position to win this game, but really they were walked over in that department, and that is the reason why their backs looked so bloody good. There will separately now be a conversation, like deja vu from 4 years ago, about Ireland's style of play, about the offloading figures today, which were through the roof for New Zealand and through the floor for Ireland, about the predictability of a Joe Schmidt team, the predictability of Irish rugby. That will all come back into view again in terms of what's going to happen in the media over the next couple of days in terms of general discussions around Irish rugby. And we were having the same discussion 4 years ago. Forget the injuries 4 years ago. There was also this other conversation about how Argentina kind of oozed class in that quarter-final and Ireland simply didn't. Same thing tonight.
You have spent the last couple of hours in and around the Irish squad, in the mix zone, talking to some of the players, sitting in the press conference. There's obviously an end-of-era feel to this because it is the end of an era. Joe Schmidt, arguably our most successful ever coach, is now gone. Rory Best, the Irish captain, is now gone. Was it okay, it just hasn't happened at this World Cup? Was it utter devastation? What was the general sense from the Irish players?
Yeah, it was devastation, really, Nathan, to be honest with you, especially from Best and Schmidt, to be honest. And I guess that's just hammered home a little bit further by the fact that this was their last opportunity to go and do something good for Ireland, and they failed in that regard. And I think they were definitely the most sad, most disappointed of the Irish contingent over the last couple of hours. I was chatting to Josh van der Fleer and Andrew Porter and Luke McGran in the mix zone, and they all kind of were of the opinion that their preparation was close to perfect this week. And James Ryan was saying the same thing. He says that they put in one of their best weeks of training, and really...
Is that not in contrast to what Joe Schmidt said? Because from reading bits of Joe Schmidt's press conference, did he not say that training was slightly disrupted because there was a lot of players with a few niggles?
That's what he said, all right, but the players didn't echo that whatsoever. James Ryan said it was actually a fantastic couple of days at training. So that's the difference there in terms of what they were actually saying. So there is a bit of a mixed message. I'm sure they haven't got around to the point where they're actually going to be discussing what exactly has gone wrong. They haven't watched the game back. But no, it seems that it's almost more worrying, isn't it, that the preparation in the view of the players was actually okay this week, that it was actually close to perfect, because if that's what a perfect week of preparation gets you performance-wise, then Ireland have got a long, long way to go if they want to ever get to a World Cup semi-final.
Oh, and like New Zealand were awesome today. Like, it was an incredible performance, and I think England will be watching that and they would be very worried. And beforehand, I was thinking England would have had a very good chance against them, but Ireland were so poor that against any Tier 1 country today, if they put in that performance, they would have struggled to win. Was there anything said about that in the mix zone from the players, like why there were so many unforced errors, why they were so off the boil from so early on?
Yeah, well, obviously that's something that we asked, and they haven't really come up with an answer for that just yet. They just seem mystified by their level of performance and why it was so poor. And like, is it the worst performance of this World Cup? Was the Japan performance worse? I would have to say that this performance was worse, way worse than the Japanese performance. It was far more unforced errors in, let's not forget, perfect conditions. Like, I think we probably gave them a free pass. We put our hands up in terms of the media. We gave them a bit of a free pass when it came to Kobe, when it came to Shizuoka, in terms of those conditions, because the sweaty ball, the humidity perhaps did lead to a few handling errors. And we thought that once winter sets in a little bit more here in Japan, things will get better. It feels like we're in Ireland right now. The conditions cannot be blamed. It is just very, very hard to get your head around. But it's also on the level of the mentality of these players about knockout rugby. These are players who've won Champions Cups last year when it comes to the Leinster contingent. These are players who have played knockout rugby, who have won knockout rugby, who have won big games in Grand Slam last year. It just doesn't make any sort of sense whatsoever that when the need is at its most, that their basic skills desert them, because that's not the case in the Six Nations generally. That's not the case in the Champions Cup. However, if we distill it down into 2019, that has been the case, and really it's just more kind of confusion as to why this has happened this year. Schmidt accepts that perhaps there was a little bit of complacency. He says that like you can't control that. You can't really actually say to yourself, well, we're not going to be complacent. He says it just tends to seep in naturally unbeknownst to themselves. But
complacency is a cop-out. An absolute cop-out to say it was complacency. Did he take responsibility for any complacency?
Well, I think when it comes to complacency, it was nothing to do with complacency today. I think he was saying that in relation to the last 12 months in terms of the complete drop-off in performance from 11 months ago. That's kind of what he said there. Like, in fairness, when he's taking responsibility, he didn't really say that the game plan didn't work. He did go back to saying, well, it wasn't executed great, and he's right in that, but also there is a game plan there that even if it was executed perfectly, it wouldn't have won that game of rugby earlier on. So it's a double-pronged discussion that we're having now as regards to the Joe Schmidt game plan. Does that get shelved now is the question, because Schmidt is gone, or do you actually look at Andy Farrell coming in and saying, well, this is a defensive coach who's after shipping a ton of points in a World Cup quarter-final, we're in a bit of trouble here. So this is a debate that's going to roll on for quite some time. So it's a bit kind of a jarring moment that Schmidt is actually gone, that we can't actually have this discussion about what needs to change because he's finished.
Yeah. Brian Moore, the former England hooker on Twitter, Owen, he threw it out there. Like, he's a very good rugby commentator, I think, but he threw it out there. Like, he says, I can't really understand why Ireland underperform at every Rugby World Cup. Like, what is the problem? And just thinking about this, like, a lot is made of the way players are looked after here. So effectively, they're well rested. They play in the Heineken Cup and they play in the internationals, and they rarely play outside of that. Whereas English, French, Welsh players, etc., play week in, week out, and that often takes its toll in the club competitions and in the Six Nations. But the World Cup does more of a level playing field. Like, I think the Japanese players have been together something like 7 months this year, roughly.
Yeah.
Wales, England, New Zealand, Australia, they've all been in camp for a long, long time. So is that advantage? Does that explain in a way why Ireland falls short in the World Cup? That they have an advantage at other times of the year, but it's out the window at World Cups? Because everybody is everybody's basically coming into it from the same base. They're all coming in with the same amount of warm-up games, same amount of training, etc. There's not the same rest being given to players. The Irish players are effectively wrapped in cotton wool for a lot of the years.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory that, like what you're suggesting is that perhaps Ireland just have a better chance in the Six Nations than other nations tend to have, and perhaps when it comes to the World Cup, everybody's on a level playing field. It's interesting that you say that, because during this week, Johnny Sexton kind of made a bit of a slip in the press conference. He was like, well, it's different this time. We played New Zealand at the end of their season last year, and perhaps they were a bit off it. And then he was like, actually, hang on a minute, this is the end of their season. It's also in the winter. Don't mind me. But actually, he might have touched on something with his slip there. Actually, New Zealand do come into this in a very different way, because not every year is the same. Every 4 years is the World Cup. That should be the most important part of that year. That should be the most important part of the 4-year cycle. And clearly, a nation like New Zealand has it down. What we're seeing England achieve at the moment is like screams of a nation who've been planning perfectly for a Rugby World Cup. Eddie Jones has had ups and downs, but clearly this team is playing better than at any point during his tenure right now. And that is probably from planning, Kieran. That is probably from years of thinking about this and thinking to yourself, well, you know what, our Premiership players are going to be screwed in March. But March isn't what matters in the year 2019. It's November that matters. And they've planned accordingly, whereas perhaps Ireland are kind of in a similar state to where they will be in every other November.
Yeah, but like you mentioned the planning Eddie Jones did there, and everybody always mentions Joe Schmidt's planning and his attention to detail. It's actually become a cliche to bring it up. And that's what really surprised people today. There didn't seem to be anything different. The people thought there was going to be some ploy, there was going to be some a few moves kept back for the biggest games, and that they would peak for the biggest game, but they looked out on their feet after 20 minutes. Like, that more than the defeat is puzzling people, I think.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I mean, how can a coach be this decorated and this successful without having a plan B? Like, if you go into a World Cup as a Tier 1 nation and don't have a plan in terms of how you were going to beat the All Blacks, then there's no point competing. So this is not a game plan that Joe Schmidt had worked on for a week, or he hadn't been thinking about this game for a week. He'd been thinking about perhaps beating the All Blacks before that game in Chicago, before the game last year. But maybe, like, it's a very, very easy thing to say, well, they're a victim of their own success in that regard. Well, you beat them once, you beat them twice, use that same game plan again, and just do it as good as you can possibly do it in the following year, the next time you get that opportunity. But clearly, there was just a version of the All Blacks that Ireland came up against last year, which just is not as good as this version. And Ireland were a version of themselves last year, which is much better than this current version. There has to be a rethink in terms of a plan B in terms of Ireland's style of play. Because it was stark today that it was one-dimensional, and that did not work. Like last year, though, it was one-dimensional as well, let's not forget, but it was working all the time.
a text in from Bart just before we let you go, and somehow, while Joe Schmidt is getting a free pass and the players are getting a free pass, us here and Off the Ball are getting dogs abuse for Ireland's defeat and our coverage of Ireland in recent weeks.
What's Bart said?
Bart says... So
you had a road show. It was all your fault for having a road show.
During the Denmark match as well.
Switzerland, actually.
Switzerland game.
Switzerland.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It happened. Let's move on with our lives now. All right? So I pointed out before the 3 o'clock news that Owen Sheehan is the only Irish man coming back from Japan with any credit.
Reputation enhanced.
Bart is saying, so Owen Sheehan is, quote, the only Irish man to return from Japan with a bit of credit. This is the man that ate sushi, interviewed steamed up Irish fans and recorded a few videos, and now you're saying that constitutes credit. I guess that view typifies the trashy magazine, snarky and snide nature of your radio show, says Bart.
You get a PPI award for that. So
We'll see. They're hard won, Owen. They're hard won.
I've always dreamed of being a trashy magazine star, so that is a huge credit, Bart. Thank you very much.
Wow, Bart's really gone in there 2-footed, hasn't he? Dear God. Are you okay? You mightn't come back now.
Listen, you know, I come back with a thicker skin as well, Nathan, so I'm ready to take on people like Bart. Come at me, Bart. Give me your worst. Give me your worst abuse.
I think that's harsh. I mean, the Goins travel diaries have been a snapshot of a time. It's like Wicker's World or one of these things. It's like, you know, it's like the post-match stuff. I mean, I assume there's one coming.
Is there one coming on?
Well, I've got about 40 minutes to get on the last train, so hopefully between now and then we'll actually find some fans. There actually doesn't seem to be too many around here, which is slightly concerning, especially when we're in the biggest city in the world.
You could interview the guys who've been making all the noise behind you for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. They're just putting away the gates. Back here tomorrow night, actually, for Japan, South Africa. So it's not the end of the road just yet on my front, but that's the big one tonight, isn't it? They forget the results. It's all about the fans tonight. All
right, good stuff. We shall talk to you back here in Dublin next week.
Yes.
Safe travel.
See you next week. Can't wait to see you.
You're going to bring
them a week off?
No chance. Are you going to bring back a present?
I hope so. Do you want anything? Do you want me to pick up anything in the shop for you?
Yeah, one of those little... bring a cat back, will you?
100% I'll bring a cat back.
Good man.
For you, Nathan. The off-ball cat.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. So many smart comments, but I'm not going to go there. Owen, thank you very much.
Cheers, Nathan.
Well done.
That is Owen Sheehan. We'll bring you some of the press conference in a little while as well. Before we get on to the football, some breaking news. The Tier 2 All-Ireland Football Championship proposal has been passed at Special Congress. 117 votes in favour, 38 against. The 3-year trial period will begin next year after Central Council motion was passed this afternoon. This means that counties competing in Division 3 and Division 4 of the Alliance League will not contest Sam Maguire unless they reach their respective provincial finals. The bottom 16 teams will instead play in an as-yet unnamed second-tier competition. The motion needed 60% majority to pass. Motion 2 from Tipperary was voted on first and passed as well. That means that Tier 2 will be determined on the league positions at the end of next year's Alliance League, which means that the two teams promoted from Division 3 will play in Tier 1 and the two teams relegated from Division 2.
So is that wouldn't be to accommodate Cork by any chance, I wonder? Because
well, even no matter who's relegated from Division 2, you'd feel it's going to be quite a big story as well.
Yeah, but I think if you had an All-Ireland Championship without a county the stature of Cork, I think there would be ructions. I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised it's so emphatic because the GAA president John Horan was pushing this so much. And the people at the top tend to get their way. Delegates tend to get row in with them. But when you do see the amount of opposition from a lot of people in the counties that will be affected, have been very vocal about, particularly players and managers, I don't think it's going to be this transformative
53
change that
106 is the text number. And Razor is online because we're on all our social channels as always on a Saturday afternoon. He said, just tuned in to Off the Ball at 3 o'clock to listen to the footy. I'd stopped listening because there's just so much rugby. Tuned in at 3 o'clock, rugby. Give over, lads, we lost. It's 3 o'clock, it's football time.
I've just to wake Dan up.
Just to wake Dan up.
I've had a good read of the papers for the last 20 minutes.
Well, I noticed that. You ignore the fact that everybody's actually watching you read the papers. There's been a goal. We're talking football for the next little while. There's been a goal at Villa Park. Aston Villa against Brighton. I don't hear any Irish music, though. Tom Gale.
Aston Villa 0, Brighton 1, and the home fans are furious. Conor Hourihane it was with a tackle out on the far side, which the ref judged to be illegal. He looks as though he got the ball from me. From the subsequent free kick to the back post, and up rose Adam Webster to nod across his goal into the bottom left-hand corner. It's Aston Villa 0, Brighton 1.
Stephen Kelly is on the line as well. Afternoon, Stephen.
Hey, Nathan.
Any thoughts on the rugby?
Disappointing. I was hoping for a little bit better, but kind of like everybody else, I kind of expected the worst, to be honest.
It's just in our nature. We sort of knew it was going to be bad. We just didn't think it was going to be quite so bad. We're going to chat, and do get your text in. We have a lot in on the rugby, but obviously I'm sure people have plenty of thoughts about the defeat to Switzerland and the draw over in Georgia last Saturday. It means that Ireland need to beat Denmark in a month's time to have any chance of qualifying automatically for Euro 2020, and that in itself has ramifications. There is a benefit of qualifying automatically, that our game against Spain could be in Dublin.
Our game against Spain, I like it. This game against Spain that is going to happen.
It's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, right.
Could be in Dublin if Ireland qualify automatically.
Yeah.
Whereas if Ireland go to a playoff, it's definitely in Bilbao.
Yeah.
Now, you've got to say a large part of me wants it to be in Bilbao.
Yeah, Bilbao's lovely.
Playoff is the way to go because it guarantees one Bilbao game.
I was pointing this out on Twitter, like the worst possible case scenario, which is getting closer and closer. So if Ireland go to a playoff, we know it's going to be something along the lines of Bosnia, Slovakia,
but away first,
Ireland.
definitely.
We'll be in our little 4-team group, and we'll probably be away to Slovakia.
Or Bosnia, yeah.
But the team that wins that group will play 2 of their matches in Dublin. Could well be Ireland, which is brilliant because a lot of Irish people have spent a lot of money, because tickets aren't cheap, in going to those games. But it could well be Slovakia or Bosnia, who are coming to play a couple of games in Dublin. Dear God.
We just have to adopt them.
Yeah.
They'll become our team.
Okay. Yeah, that's not very exciting though, is it?
No. Well, Bosnia, there's a good story in Bosnia you could buy into. Slovakians, maybe. No, I mean, Northern Ireland could be the one. Northern Ireland could be 2 games.
We're going to buy into...
We've got England coming for the round of 16.
They'll be United Ireland by then anyway.
The round of 16 game could be England against Germany.
Yeah, England win their group. Yeah.
Germany comes second in their group. It's England against Germany in Dublin.
In Dublin. If England win their group, they're definitely in Dublin for the round of 16. So England, Germany, yeah. We'd be neutral, of course.
Group, wouldn't you?
But yeah.
Good one, Dad.
We would totally stay neutral on that one. Yeah. We don't want that to be the most exciting part of
the draw.
Is the levelling of Dublin for a round of 16 game between England and Germany. That's not what we need.
So what we're going to get is 2 games involving Northern Ireland and 1 England against Germany.
And a lot of people singing 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup. Can't wait.
Yeah. Does it go to King Power Stadium?
That station won't be open either. I mean, the whole thing. The whole thing.
Can't even get near the stadium. Leicester against Burnley. Let's go to the King Power. Derek Clark.
Leicester City 0, Burnley 1, and it's Chris Wood with the goal for the visitors. There was a fantastic whip ball in from Dwight McNeil onto the New Zealander's head, and he headed the ball into the top corner. Kasper Schmeichel got a hand to it, but he couldn't keep it out. It's Leicester City 0, Burnley 1.
All right, so the latest scores in the Premier League, around half an hour gone in all of these games. Spurs still 1-0 down at home against Watford. Burnley 1-0 up away at Leicester. It's scoreless between Wolves and Southampton, and in the game between Chelsea and Newcastle. Brighton are 1-0 up against Aston Villa, and it's scoreless between Bournemouth and Norwich. Everton beat West Ham by 2-0 earlier. Palace against Manchester City is the late game. In the Championship, it finished 2-2 between Blackburn and Huddersfield. Earlier today, in the 3 o'clock kickoffs, Charlton 1-0 up against Derby, and Stoke have taken a 1-0 lead against Fulham. All the rest of the games are scoreless. And in Scotland, in the Scottish Premiership, Celtic 1-0 up against Ross County in their game. They've just scored in that match, and Aberdeen 1-0 up away at Motherwell. So that's the latest scores in the Premier League and the Championship. We do need to take a quick break, and then we'll properly, for all of you, tune in for the football. I don't want to talk about all this stuff. We'll do that next, I promise.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen. Coming up on Alive and Kicking this weekend.
A recent survey found that a third of parents are fed up with images of perfect parenting on social media. I'm going to be joined by comic duo The Dirtbirds to discuss when parenting isn't so pretty. And the clocks go back on the 27th of October. It's an extra hour in bed, granted, but does it have an adverse effect on your health? Should we do away with daylight savings time altogether? I'll be asking an expert.
Alive and Kicking with Claire McKenna.
Thanks to Repromed.
This Sunday from 9 a.m.
On News Talk.
Productive afternoons with Harvey Norman. Need more you time? Ask about our range of large capacity washing machines with quick wash functions in Harvey Norman today. Now, where's the remote?
Go, Harvey, go!
Listen up, class. Aldi's Play Rugby sticker promotion is finishing soon. Keep collecting official Irish rugby stickers every time you spend €30 in Aldi. Fill your primary school's poster for a chance to win one of 2 €50,000 prizes or one of 10 €10,000 prizes for your school's playing facilities. There's a guaranteed Aldi Play Rugby kit worth over €100 for every completed poster submitted. Aldi, official supermarket of the IRFU. Full details at aldi.ie/playrugby. Promotion runs until the 8th of November.
Throughout Europe, one name stands out for windows and doors: Ocnoplast. A perfect combination of elegance, style and modern technology, providing more features for windows than ever before. Expect more. Think Ocnoplast. Premium quality windows and doors. Dublin, Cork and Galway. Ocnoplast.ie. Visibly more.
Ever wondered what superb sounds like? Silence. Exhale the day's toll. A seat that remembers its driver. A touchscreen entertainment system. Start the engine at the push of a button. And go. The new Skoda Superb. If it sounds this good, just imagine what it looks like.
Tomorrow, it's Man United v Liverpool in an unmissable fixture. And with Now TV, you can watch all the action live for a one-off payment of just €10. Hold on, they're checking with VAR.
That's confirmed, it's €10.
That's what the crowd wanted to hear. So, to only pay for the games that matter to you, grab a Now TV Sky Sports Day Pass. Search Now TV Sports. 18 plus, content streamed via internet, full terms apply.
Cash free, hassle free. Where'd I put the ticket again? Free. Parking in Dundrum is breezy with an easy trip toll tag. Your account gets charged automatically, no messing about with cash. Just cruise in and out like royalty and focus on the important stuff. Shopping. To park like a VIP, sign up at easytrip.ie. We heart in real life. Dundrum Town Centre.
Meet Laura. Hi. She's a new Leia Healthcare concierge, here to answer your questions.
Where do penguins live?
No, not that type of question.
What's for dinner?
Or that. See, Laura is part of a friendly clinical team, the first in Ireland for all your healthcare questions. Like,
what does my diagnosis mean?
Can you find a consultant near me?
So if you've a healthcare question, your Leia Healthcare concierge has the answer. Call us or visit leiahealthcare.ie, because it's good to live. Insurance provided by Elips Insurance Limited, trading as Leia Healthcare. Leia Healthcare Limited, trading as Leia Healthcare and Leia Life, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Available from renewal or purchase from 1st October 2019 on selected schemes for members over the age of 18.
Whether your goal is completing your first 5K or an Ironman triathlon, Beacon Hospital's new sports lab can help you reach your potential. Using the most technologically advanced equipment, our experts will design your unique program based on a comprehensive assessment, including VO2 max and isokinetic strength testing. Beacon Hospital. Modern medicine for maximum performance. Visit beaconhospital.ie.
At Air Business, we understand how important reliability, great value and cutting-edge technology is to small business owners. For a limited time only, get a free iPhone XR or Samsung Galaxy S10 with no limits data, unlimited calls and texts for just $48.99 a month excluding VAT. Chat to our business team in-store or on 1-800-245-440 or visit air.ie/business. Air. Let's make possible. Subject to availability, prices for Air broadband customers. For full terms, conditions and fair usage, see air.ie/business.
At DoneDeal, we have more cars from trusted car dealerships than any other site in Ireland. So whether you're looking for the latest SUV model or an approved used car, you can always be sure to find exactly the right car for you. DoneDeal, Ireland's largest car showroom, in the palm of your hand.
The NCT's looming again. It's your mum's birthday next Tuesday. The washing machine is definitely on its last legs. Is it too early to mention Christmas? The thing is, there's always something. Which is why it's always worth talking to our mortgage team to see how switching your mortgage to Ulster Bank could help. Talk to us today. Oh, and don't forget your mum's birthday. Ulster Bank. Help for what matters. Over 18s in Republic of Ireland residents only. Ulster Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. The greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
Little step over, left hand side, goes round one, takes on another, knocks it back then to Longstaff! What a finish! Matt Longstaff! What a finish on your debut! Welcome to the big time! That is what it's all about! That is what dreams are made of! 19-year-old Matt Longstaff in front of the Gallowgate end has scored for his local club against Manchester United, and it's getting even worse for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and this place has gone absolutely mad. It's Newcastle United 1, Manchester United 0. It's Matt Longstaff on his debut. It's Alexander Arnold! Oh, smashes it into the top corner. It was a little back heel from Mo Salah to Alexander Arnold, and from the edge of the area, it's a rocket past Kepa in the Chelsea goal, and Liverpool have gone in front. Trent Alexander-Arnold, you ain't going to stop that. Chelsea 0, Liverpool 1 at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, contrasting starts to the season for Manchester United and Liverpool. They go head-to-head at Old Trafford tomorrow, and we will have full live and exclusive national radio commentary right here on Off the Ball. Myself and Kevin Kilban will be there for the 4:30 kickoff. It is Saturday afternoon football. We got there eventually. Dan McDonnell and Kieran Cunningham are in studio. Stephen Kelly is on the line. All of this rugby talk, Stephen, has totally overshadowed a very disappointing week for the Republic of Ireland as well. A huge chance to qualify for Euro 2020. Couldn't win either game, just the 1 point. Totally outclassed over in Geneva. What are your overall thoughts on the two games?
Well, the Georgia game I thought was really disappointing. To not register a shot until the last 15 minutes was extremely disappointing. I didn't think we performed well. We didn't come out of traps. We should have had a bit more confidence in ourselves and our ability to take the game to them, because the game against Georgia at home was probably the best I felt we performed in an all-over performance by the way we played. We kept the ball. We got into good areas. We had great opportunities, and we scored a good goal. And we could have been more. So the confidence we should have had from that going into the Georgia game should have made us feel like we can go and win that, but we didn't. We just looked toothless, and it wasn't a great performance. Then all on the Switzerland game, which we knew was going to be a hard ask, and then they were going to have the lion's share of possession. But again, there's times during the game where I thought, you know what, Switzerland, they're not fully at it, and we could get after them. We just never did, and you know, we've got an uphill struggle now, which is disappointing, but still only one win away from qualifying for a major tournament. So it's not the end of the world. It's just doesn't look great because our performance level has not been high enough to make us feel like we can win the game against Denmark.
It's now 6 goals in 7 qualifiers, and remember that includes 2 games against Gibraltar. And in fairness to Mick McCarthy, I don't think he said the line, we don't have a Robbie Keane type anymore, but we're not creating any opportunities for the strikers. There's no real stage of a game where Ireland are laying onslaught. Maybe the injury time period over in Tbilisi, that was it over the 2 matches, where there were a couple of opportunities in quick succession. The way McCarthy's setting the team up, whatever formation, is he doing enough to put the attacking players in positions where they can cause an opposition defence some problems?
I think so. I don't think he's setting us up in a really negative way. Like having Whelan sitting there, that's his security. So then the rest of the players should be able to, in theory, go forward and attack in numbers and get people into the box. It's just we don't keep possession enough to allow that to happen, and that's the issue. We don't retain the ball enough in good areas to allow people to get up the field high enough to actually cause people problems. And then when we get the ball upfield, when McGoldrick's not there, the quality is lacking. So the whole of play is not great, and we don't have that. We turn the ball over too quickly. So that's the issue. McLean on the left hand side, he offers a lot going back, and defensively he's so driven, 100% commitment, and will track and run. But when he gets forward, sometimes game management, he'll cross the ball and there's no one in there, where you're kind of screaming at him to turn out and keep it and then let us get out of the pitch. So, you know, I think the setup is there. It's just we've not been capable enough to do it in enough games. I said the only game I felt like we actually did it in was Georgia at home. We actually performed quite well and we kept the ball, and it was I think everybody around was like, oh, this looks good. This is Ireland going forward. We've got a chance, but it hasn't really happened since then.
Yeah, the general sense around Irish football, maybe it is better than a year ago than it was under Martin O'Neill. I don't know, Dan, what your sense is, and Kieran, and people are just a little bit fed up. It just feels like it's more the same. And part of me was thinking, football, league football, English football, Champions League football has never been better. It's never been more exciting. You watch the quality every Sunday, you watch the Champions League, it feels like there's more goals, there's more exciting attacking play. And then we return to Ireland, which feels like it's from a bygone era of no possession, no counter-attack, no innovative thinking, nothing. Is this what we are?
I think you have to aspire to be more than that.
You can aspire, but is that what we are right now?
I don't know. I mean,
some sort of footballing backwater.
It's a tough one, there's no doubt the players aren't playing with confidence, and I agree that I don't think it's like the manager's taken it massively, he's not setting up negatively at all. He probably could have been a bit bolder in Georgia, I think, in terms of some decisions and maybe use of substitutions and, the mindset. I completely understand why he's saying it. You have to analyse it, but I completely understand why he's saying, well, we're one game away from the tournament, you would have taken that type of thing. But the whole picture of the group was set up for Ireland to get points early, and it was about being clinical and driving on from that position of control. A lot of things went Ireland's way in the group in the early part of it. I do think they earned their point in Denmark in June. I know Denmark had chances, but I thought that was actually a more controlled away display. The problem is they've come back from the autumn, they just haven't played well at all. Didn't play well in the Switzerland match. I think it was completely massaged by the stirring finish. Maybe he's been too loyal to certain players. It's not working. Maybe that the team isn't balanced enough. Stephen touched on it there, that if you have certain limitations, I heard Stephen Hunt in it last week. I think I referenced it. Say McLean's style is very direct. He can play in straight lines, but maybe the team is getting very stretched. It's not really like a compact unit that's built towards keeping the ball and playing up the pitch and. I think that's where a bit of criticism has to come in terms of do you feel that it's a simple case now, you just go, this is it, Mick's getting the best out of them, that's all they are. I don't think that's the case either. There's no doubt that you would expect a bit more, and Tuesday they played well at parts in the second half, but I did think as well they changed system. They didn't practice that the night before in the stadium because they were concerned about spies or whatever. And we ended up in a situation for a big game in the group. I look back to Mick's quotes last year when he was appointed at the press conference the other day. He had a very specific line to say, I won't be a 3-5-2 man. That won't be for me. I'll flat back 4. That he's ended up in that scenario in Switzerland doing that with some square pegs and round holes. It suggests that he's reaching around looking for a solution that he actually hasn't found. He hasn't found the key to this group,
and he's not going to really have the time to find it.
He's not really going to have time, and it would be worried. I was a bit worried after Switzerland. I'm really worried Ireland won't qualify now. I'm finding it really hard to find the optimism to believe that would be possible in a space of time. And there's been a loyalty to players that in time he might regret it. I know there are no outstanding alternatives there. It's not as if there is a player on the bench that we're all screaming for and saying, well, why isn't that lad involved? But in terms of picking personnel that would be suited to a better style of play, you could argue that he hasn't done that, and I think that would be the criticism, certainly in Georgia anyway.
Yeah, because I'd go along with Dan on that I could see Ireland not qualifying, and then you have Stephen Kenny coming in, and there's been a lot of positivity around the work that Stephen has done and the way the under-21s have played. And I know they had a setback during the week in Iceland, obviously, but that's a really young bunch. And if you're bringing a lot of those into the senior setup, they're going to be very raw and take a while to learn. And they're going to be trying to learn, and Stephen as well, in a World Cup group. And Ireland having to qualify for a World Cup in 2002. You have 12 teams, I think it's 12 from Europe.
13 out of Europe.
Yeah, 13 out of Europe.
But you have to either win your group or go through, I think, what'll be a complicated enough playoff process.
Whereas with European Championships, you're 24. So basically, effectively it's twice as difficult. And you could say, okay, Stephen will be given pressure, but if Ireland finish 4th or 5th in that group, there's going to be huge pressure on Stephen coming in. So I think in a way he got a poison chalice. You have far better starting out in the European Championship group.
I do wonder, though, actually, has this Mick McCarthy reign been a brilliant thing for Stephen Kenny in a couple of ways. Obviously, he gets the experience of this sort of international cycle with the under-21s, might be able to bring in 2 or 3 of those players instantly. But also, expectations right now are so low. And it has worked out. He's going to have 6 Nations League games before the proper World Cup qualifiers begin. But also, it's a near impossible job to qualify. If he goes out, has this senior team playing a style like the under-21s are playing, if results aren't perfect, all right, we don't qualify. But at least there's something on the pitch that people can get excited about, that people can be properly proud of.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, I actually feel in a way, I'm at a point in the piece today, I think some of Kenny's like biggest backers, and one of them normally sits here on a Saturday, like they're actually building almost an unrealistic expectation about how things are going to be in the short term, that straight away, like he's going to take these group of players and suddenly, you know, Ireland are going to operate a completely different style or something like that is going to evolve and take time. And I think while there's a broad understanding of that, the emotions around the Irish national football team, they tend to, they rarely level out, you know, along the middle. They tend to be an extreme of emotion. And I think that, you know, if things do go badly in that Nations League campaign, you can be full sure that the minute the team has a couple of bad results, people are like, well, is it because the players don't respect them? Almost confirming theories that people have before, which may not be the reasons they're struggling at all. But he's going to have to... So I know what you're saying. It could be a good time to arrive in the sense of there won't be pressure there, but there is always pressure with this job, and there's always going to be the sense that he has to sort of prove himself in some way. And I don't think it's going to be as easy for him as people might think, you know, just to slot in and have the understanding. Sorry, Stephen, I cut across you.
Yeah, no, it's funny. When people talk about Stephen Kenny, for me, it's like, I think everybody's like looking forward, thinking that's going to be great, can bring the all 21s up. But realistically, those 21 players are going to have to perform at a level, at club level, if they're going to get a senior international cap. Like, and if they were doing that now at their club, they'd be like Aaron Connolly and they'd be in the first team. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's great that we're having this style of football and we're looking to progress them, and that's fantastic. But there's no... You can't automatically, just because we play 21s for Stephen Kenny, come into the senior team unless at club level you're performing to a level or a high enough standard that's going to warrant you to get a senior cap. You have to be doing it at club. So if these players are doing it at 21s but then don't step up or don't progress at their club, they're not going to progress to the senior team. I can't see that. I can't just see him bringing people in because they've done well for me underage. It's a huge step up, and if you can't show at a senior level club football, I'm not too sure you can really go and trust them at senior level international football.
Stephen, one thing I was wondering was from your own experience, because I remember this being said a few years ago. Mark Lawson used to write a lot in his column in the Irish Times that at international level you need between 12 to 15 games really to find your feet. And these days, people seem to have a lack of patience. So there's huge pressure, even with fellas with 2 or 3 caps, and people say, why don't they deliver? Or like around Seanie Maguire, you hear people say, no, he's shown he's not good enough. And he's only had a matter of minutes, really. Yeah. Or the likes of James Collins, Scott Hogan. They haven't had many games, but there's huge pressure now to deliver straight away. And even with Aaron Connolly, like people expect him. Last week, he played his second senior game of football. And people were saying, you know, yeah. And he'd only started one club match at senior level. So he started 3. He started a couple of League Cup games. Yeah, but sorry, I mean Premier League. Yeah. But Stephen, is that a problem now that there's a lack of patience now? People want instant, fully blown internationals.
Yeah, it's a lack of patience, and it's a slight desperation from our point of view that we're pinning our hopes on people that, you know, are only starting. Like even Troy Parrott, like people are hoping that Troy's going to come in and be Robbie Keane, and he's 17 and he's played one game in the Carroll Cup for Tottenham. We can't be putting all our eggs in one basket and hoping these players are going to develop into something and putting that pressure on them, because you're putting pressure on young shoulders that that's not right. We should be giving them time to bed in, and you know, it'd be great if they can hit the ground running and score goals and have have an impact on the team straight away, but that's not always the case. Sometimes players take time to build up, and it is a step up in quality and a step up in the pace of the game, and the players you're playing against. Everything about it is bigger than what the 21s would be or underage football. So you need to give these players time. And even look at like someone, Conor Horan, I'm not sure how many caps he'd have. It wouldn't be that many. He stepped up and he's played senior level at club level for a long time, but international level has been a step up for him. He's adjusted too well and he's performing, but he wouldn't have had that many caps under his belt already. So it's, you know, we're expecting a lot from these players that wouldn't have been experienced in international football.
Just on Stephen Kenny then and his arrival, and I'm wary of raising expectations too much, but I was making this point after watching the 21s last week. Like the most positive part for me isn't the individuals, because he has no control, unfortunately, over the individuals. And like Troy Parrott is the prime example. Maurizio Pochettino gets sacked in the next couple of weeks. New manager comes in, is given 40 million quid to buy a striker. Parrott has to go on loan, and then he has to start his development again. But hopefully he makes it. But Stephen Kenny has had a group of players. So that back four, Leo O'Connor from Celtic, never played a game of senior football. Conor Masterson, never played a game of senior football. Darragh O'Shea, not in the West Brom senior team. I know he went out on loan.
Excellent.
And Liam Scales, playing with UCD at the bottom of the League of Ireland Premier Division. Yet, they went out against Italy and played a style of football that you want to watch. All of them looking for the ball, passing the ball, doing it all. So, if you can do that with 21s, with very, say, immature, inexperienced players, surely it'll be a quicker process when he goes into a senior squad with Seamus Coleman, Matt Doherty, Shane Duffy, John Egan, experienced professionals, that it's more the system than the individuals that's exciting.
Well, I don't know, you see, because Stephen Kenny's always in his recruitment, he's always gone after a certain type of, say, centre-half. This is an interesting debate. Like, you know, Shane Duffy, for example, hasn't played for Brighton this year.
Because he's not the ball-playing footballer.
He's deemed as not a ball-playing centre-half. So, like, is a manager going to pick players by reputation or pick players to suit his style? And like this is actually a debate that you have to consider. Like, that might be a factor that, like, how do you get a team to play a style? Well, you know, you have different styles and different types of players. I think the most likely change under Kenny will be that he will probably favour players who he feels suit his style of play, if you get me, rather than just taking his best 11 players and expecting them to do things, if you get me, you know. And I think that's going to be the most interesting part of it, that Stephen Kenny, when he's been out of the scene, he's always had this view that international football is different from league football in England. He always rallied against this suggestion that your suitability for international football is determined by where you are in the English ladder or whatever. Now he's inside the tent now, so it's maybe harder to express that view when, like, this is still going to be the best group of players he's ever worked with, the senior team, no matter what way you describe it. And I actually think that, like, I think that when we discuss Stephen Kenny, sometimes there's an expectation that there's going to be, you know, he's going to bring in all the 21s. I think it's very possible this time next year that there might only be one or two.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it might be the likes of Robbie Brady playing today. He might see Robbie Brady as a central player.
Yeah.
He might see, I think he might like someone like Conor Harahan, actually, for example, who's a player. And it's actually, you know, but picking his team in such a way that he favours those players who might suit his style, rather than taking players now and getting them playing in a different way. I think that's an important distinction to make.
I do want to talk to you about that, Stephen, about the difference between league football and international football, and playing well for your club and playing well for your country, because I think it is something we all struggle at times to get our head around, how players can do the very basic things for their club, and when it comes to their country it seems to be a bit of a struggle. We'll chat about that just after 4, because I want to go around the grounds because the halftime whistles are blowing. Let's go to Stamford Bridge first. Chelsea against Newcastle. Andrew Cheal.
Chelsea 0, Newcastle 0. The two best chances of the first half, both to Chelsea. Abrahams were heading wide when he was unmarked and should have scored. Mason Mount with a sharp shot from about the penalty spot. A decent save from Dubravka. Both openings created by Hudson-Odoi rather cleverly. It's been mostly Chelsea in possession, although there's a whiff of danger about Newcastle on the break. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 0.
Next to the Vitality Stadium, where it's Bournemouth against Norwich. Alan Lewis.
Bournemouth 0, Norwich 0. Not the greatest 45 minutes of football you're ever going to see. Bournemouth marginally the better team. Rico and Billing blasted efforts over the bar early on. Bournemouth's best effort came when Callum Wilson slipped the ball into Solanke. He was denied by a good save from Tim Krul back between the sticks for Norwich. Norwich yet to test the Bournemouth goalkeeper, but Timu Pukki is working very hard up front. Something to cling to. Neither of these teams have kept a clean sheet so far this season. It's Bournemouth 0, Norwich 0.
Aaron Connolly keeping his place in the Brighton side for today's game against Aston Villa. Let's hear how it's been going with Tom Gale.
Aston Villa 1, Brighton 1, and what eventful 45 minutes it's been. The visitors took the lead on 21 minutes. The home side not happy. A free kick awarded when they felt Conor Harahan got the ball, floated in the back post. Adam Webster notched in for the visitors. They were then reduced to 10 men. Aaron Moy needlessly picking up a second yellow card, meaning Graham Potter's side had to readjust tactically. Villa then thought they had an equaliser through Hoahan, who was playing like a man, seeking vengeance, but that was disallowed from a foul by Wesley in the build-up via VAR, and then into added on time in the first half, Captain Jack Greeley sliding in the back post to mean we're all level. At half-time, Aston Villa 1, Brighton 1.
Spurs could well be the big story of the evening in football, particularly with the way things are going at Watford. Let's hear from Guy Swindles.
Spurs 0, Watford 1, and the problems for Spurs just keep on piling up. In the 7th minute, Jan Maat did the better of Danny Rose. Fine cross, Decore at the far post, unmarked to tuck home. Could have been worse too. Delafeo had a good shout for a penalty going down under a challenge for Vertonghen, but VAR backed up the referee's decision not to give it. Spurs have had plenty of possession, they just haven't done very much with it. The closest they've come to a goal, an alley shot that in the end was comfortably saved by Ben Foster. Spurs 0, Watford 1.
Next to the King Power, Leicester City against Burnley. Derek Clark.
Half-time, Leicester City 1, Burnley 1. It's been a game of headers so far. Chris Woods headed Burnley in front in 26 minutes after he connected with a Dwight McNeil cross. The Foxes responded just before the break. Harvey Barnes delivered a pinpoint cross for Jamie Vardy, who nodded past Nick Pope, and he celebrated by pointing his fingers into his ears after getting a bit of stick from the Burnley faithful. It's half-time here, Leicester City 1, Burnley 1.
Wolves finally seem to be finding a bit of form. They're up against Southampton today, and Alex Winter.
It's Wolves 0, Southampton 0 at half-time, but VAR in the spotlight here at Molineux. Raul Jimenez thought he'd given Wolves the lead shortly before the break, finishing off a lovely, sweeping Wolves counter-attack, only for VAR, to the amusement of everybody, to come back and rule that in the build-up to the goal, Patrick Cutrone had no more than half a toe offside. It was the most marginal of calls, but VAR ruled the goal out and Southampton survived. And earlier on in the half, VAR had backed up the linesman's decision to rule another Wolves goal out, so the home supporters are venting their frustration at the video official so far. But Southampton have been growing into the game and had half a chance through Holberg, but his right foot shot was scooped over at the crossbar. Wolves 0, Southampton 0 at the break.
I didn't find the VAR funny at all in that. I didn't find it amusing. I thought Wolves were in front when I went to that half-time report, but apparently not.
You can't just glance at score updates now because of VAR. You know, you might see a score update
and you sort of move on with your life.
And you assume that's happened.
That has happened where I went home in the evening and presumed one thing had happened and then was like, wait a second, what the hell has gone on here?
Something to be wary of now, definitely.
I once did that in live radio or a radio report years ago for 98 FM. It was a Pat's I can't remember who Pats were playing when they used to play at Harold's Cross, but it was a St. Patrick's Day game, and for some reason there was very few people out, and whatever visiting team was there, it might have been Galway or something, they had hardly any fans, but they scored with the last kick of the game, and out they had done right in the report, and there was no cheer and they didn't kick off, so I got the score wrong, announced it as 1-0 when it was 2-0 or something.
That's how, there's a more recent example of that happening with Freelance as well, I think, 2-0 with a 2-1.
No, don't name names.
I'm not going to name names.
Okay.
That wouldn't be fair.
All right. Our football coverage brought to you with thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit dunlewy.net. So that's you up to date with all the latest scores. Lots of texts coming in about Ireland. We'll get to them with Stephen Kelly next.
Join that conversation. Text us on 53106. Texts cost 30 cents.
Hi, I'm Aisling. I'm a very active person. I love to go running and hill walking, so comfort and support are very important. I often visit Foot Solutions as their staff are very knowledgeable. They have the latest technology and a range of great brands for outdoor activity. Now I can go hiking with total peace of mind.
For active feet without the pain, drop into Foot Solutions or visit footsolutions.ie.
Tim should be spending his time networking, scaling up his business. Who knows, maybe even opening a second office. But instead, he spends his time switching off every light, heater and electrical device in the building, when he should just talk to Energia about our cash for kilowatt scheme. With grants of up to 30% for energy efficiency upgrades, it's the one-stop, hassle-free way for businesses to see their energy bills fall. Go to energia.ie/business to find out more. Energia, the power behind your savings. Terms and conditions apply.
Life these days is all about compromise. A little give and take. You've got to give a little to take a little. You can have this with that, but you can't have that with this. Well, now you can. The all-new Opel Grandland X Hybrid 4 takes the intelligence of a hybrid and gives you the power of an SUV. With Opel's innovative plug-in technology, efficiency now goes even further. And with 4 driving modes, electric, hybrid, all-wheel drive and sport, you can tailor your Grandland X's characteristics to suit whatever journey you're taking. Meaning, you compromise nothing and you get everything. The all-new Opel Grandland X Hybrid 4. Discover more at your Opel dealership.
At Centra, we have great offers in store, like Centra Irish part-bone chicken breasts, 610 gram, half price now €3.50. Fanta or Sprite 1.75 litre range, €1.50 each. And Coors Light or Heineken 20 bottle packs, €18 each. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy sensibly.
I don't know. I'm not in that mindset.
I don't have time. Yeah.
It's just keep going. And maybe not thinking of those things, whether it's a mental block, I don't know. Yeah, it's probably something we do need to think about.
We've never discussed it.
Jane, it would be a huge relief.
Yeah.
To know that you're financially secure in some way. It would be for the benefit of our kids if anything happened to either of us.
No one should spend time thinking about the worst things that can happen. That's why VHI has made setting up life insurance simple. Search VHI Life and get a quick quote or call us on 1890 444444. VHI Healthcare DAC trading as VHI Healthcare is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland and is tied to Zurich Life Assurance plc for VHI Life Term Insurance.
Fancy scoring free tickets to an incredible UEFA Champions League experience with Pepsi Max? Then show us your skills. Pepsi Max has 20 pairs up for grabs, and to be in with a chance to win, just pick up a Pepsi Max UEFA Champions League promotional pack in store. To enter, just post a video or pic of your best football trick with your promotional pack and share it on Pepsi Max Facebook or Instagram with hashtag #ForTheLoveOfIt. See PepsiMax.ie for details. Pepsi Max, maximum taste, no sugar.
4 stars from entertainment.ie. A wicked little picture, said Screen Daily. Brilliantly bizarre, said headstuff.org. Dark lies the island. A story about life and death, dark memories and murderous intentions.
Still doing the twofers of a Monday.
The what?
2 snack boxes for the price of 1.
Starring Pat Short, Tommy Tiernan, Charlie Murphy, Peter Coonan and Mo Dunford.
All you do is go around town following your lad.
Dark lies the island. In cinemas now.
Do you have a TV licence? Inspectors are calling to unlicensed homes and businesses. If you don't, that can mean prosecution and a fine of up to €1,000. It's the law, so get yours at tvlicence.ie or at any post office. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
At a friend's party, Tim finds his partner in the hall, says he wants to take her upstairs. Ellen says, no, not now, and turns to go. But Tim's voice rises.
Come on.
He grabs her. Friends see, but look to keep the party going. They shrug, saying,
They're always like that.
that's just them.
Enough is enough. Let's stop excusing sexual harassment and sexual violence. Learn more at gov.ie/no excuses or in an emergency call 999. This is an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Today at Power City, get big savings on all your favourite electrical brands during our Purple Tag sale event. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
At Air Business, we understand how important reliability, great value and cutting-edge technology is to small business owners. For a limited time only, get a free iPhone XR or Samsung Galaxy S10 with no limits data, unlimited calls and texts for just $48.99 a month excluding VAT. Chat to our business team in store or on 1-800-245-440 or visit air.ie/business. Air. Let's make possible. Subject to availability, prices for Air broadband customers. For full terms, conditions and fair usage, see air.ie/business.
Across Ireland. This is the IMRO Radio Awards Station of the Year. This is News Talk.
It's 4 o'clock. I'm Karen Tompkins. Good afternoon. The British Prime Minister says he will not negotiate a Brexit delay with the EU after MPs voted in favour of an extension this afternoon. In a special sitting today, the House of Commons voted 322 to 306 in favour of an amendment proposed by former Conservative Minister Sir Oliver Letwin. The amendment means Boris Johnson is now obliged to write a letter to the European Union requesting an extension to the October 31st Brexit deadline. However, Mr Johnson is adamant that he will not seek an extension.
I will not negotiate a delay with the EU, and neither does the law compel me to do so.
Meanwhile, Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn expressed concern about the Prime Minister's stance.
I invite him to think very carefully about the remarks he just made about refusing, apparently, to apply for the extension which the EU No. 2 Act requires him to do.
The government's been called on to toss any political salary increases for top civil servants in the bin. It's after a salary review by the Department of Public Expenditure recommended a pay increase of up to 30%. It claims there are too few applications for senior roles due to a decades-old salary cap and says pay rises of between €60 and €105,000 would be a solution. Chairman of Wexford County Council Michael Sheehan says only increasing the pay of top earners should be ruled out.
If you're going to make it for one branch of the civil or public servant, you should be making it for all branches, right down to doctors and nurses. So it's immoral and it should be ruled out.
And Fianna Fáil TD says she's deeply concerned and worried by the fluctuations in Fair Deal scheme waiting lists. Up to the end of September, 686 people were waiting. That's up 30% on 2 weeks previous. Mary Butler says there are roughly 1,000 beds available in the nursing home system nationwide. She says the government needs to urgently act as the current situation is only going to get worse over the winter months.
We know there is capacity in the nursing homes. So what we need is for the government to allow these people to transfer into the nursing homes. What it'll do then is it'll free up capacity in our acute hospitals, and it means that we won't have as many people waiting on trolleys looking for entrance into the hospital.
That's your news. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA, you can find our lowest car insurance price online, guaranteed.
Cool and mostly cloudy with a mix of dry spells and scattered showers mostly in the east of the country. Many areas getting sunny breaks this evening. Your temperatures 11 to 13 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
You're welcome back to Saturday's Off the Ball. Word on the street is that Ireland are out of the Rugby World Cup. We may have spoken about this quite a bit over the last
You've got a bit of grief for talking about it.
A bit of grief for... In fact, all we've got is grief. It's a day like this, you can't win. We're getting grief for still talking about it. Getting grief for talking about football on such a momentously bad day, I guess, for Irish rugby. Grief for building them up. Grief for being overly critical. What is the correct line to take?
Well, I mean, you're never going to please everyone. It's the bad thing about getting knocked out of a World Cup at 12:30 in the day, or whatever time it was. Ireland-Spain 2002, that was way too early to get knocked out. By around like 5 o'clock, I was listening to BBC or whatever, trying to find some crumb of comfort somewhere.
Well, the good thing about like bringing up an example like that is there's always the chance of redemption. Like, look at Kevin Kilbane. Some of the things I said about Kevin Kilbane that day, I certainly won't be saying to him tomorrow when I see him at Old Trafford. I fully forgive him for all that.
You never thought I'd stay in his house.
I never thought I'd stay. Never thought I'd
cheer him on in a dancing on ice competition.
I certainly never thought. Did you see him on the ice yesterday? So if you're not following Kevin Kilbane on Instagram, a month ago you wouldn't have been able to. It was very private. But now it's opened up to the world because he's very much on. He's a
celebrity.
He's a celebrity.
He's very much on. The word you're looking for is a big contract. That's the word you've actually forgotten.
So his Instagram account is open. He's obviously updating constantly his dancing.
Yeah.
And he put up a video yesterday that I thought actually looked quite impressive. He was flowing effortlessly across the ice.
Right.
It was wonderful.
Listen, he could. I mean,
I hope he does.
For all, you give people grief. To play at a high level probably involves a high level of determination,
work ethic,
practice, work ethic, athleticism. I think
you'd imagine so.
You'd imagine he'd have a decent chance of applying himself.
He's not the only one who's changed his social media profile. Stephen Kelly has joined Twitter, I hear.
Oh, has he?
He has. What's your, if people want, this is your big chance.
Is he any good though? What do you have to know?
Well, that's what we want to know. Have you tweeted yet, Stephen?
I've tweeted, my first one went out about a week ago, so I'm still with about 4 or 5 followers. So doing well.
And are you planning on tweeting, or do you have an agent who's going to put out? Great results for the boys today.
Probably won't get too much, but it'll be myself doing everything. So it's one of these things I've been debating about, and I suppose since I've taken the dive into working with media, like of yourselves, I've kind of felt like been getting a bit of pressure to try and get onto it. So I'm like, okay, I'll bite the bullet. Here we go. Let's see what happens. And it's been okay so far.
Who's your most impressive follower so far, Stephen?
Sorry?
Who's your most impressive follower so far? Who would impress us now that's followed you?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Who have I got following me that's decent? Honestly, I haven't really looked at my followers to tell you who's actually. I'm probably getting a few more now.
Right.
But I would say maybe Off the Ball.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Who are you following?
Oh God, everybody who'll have me. I'm up with all the media stations.
Not following me.
Don't want to name too many apart from yourself.
Right.
In with I suppose after Tottenham, I was in with Tottenham at the training ground yesterday, so I probably should put a tweet up from that. That might get me a few extra hours down at the training ground, having a look around, getting some insight into the team. Can't divulge too much, but it was really nice.
You now have 42 followers. Okay. And you're following 113. So now that you mentioned it, you were down at the Spurs training ground yesterday.
I was.
Were you talking to Maurizio Pochettino?
Today, just to see around and catch up with the people. I was there. It's almost 20 years since I signed for Tottenham when I was a kid, so they just asked me would I like to come down, have a look around and meet the people that are still there from when I was there, so it was nice.
And what was the mood around the Tottenham training ground? Is there a sense that the end is nigh for Pochettino?
If you haven't been there, if anybody's been there, the facilities are out of this world. I mean, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. It's hard to explain. They have a hotel on site that's for the players for staying over, and if you could book into this hotel to stay in London, I'd recommend staying there if you could. It's that good. It's beyond belief what they've put on for this team, and they have no excuse not to be playing well.
Well, where is it, Stephen? Where is the training ground? What part of London?
It's just off Enfield.
So off Enfield, okay,
25 off the 8.
Because I think I read yesterday they're doing like Amazon did that documentary series about City, that the one on Spurs this season. I was just thinking, would that put a bit of pressure on, or I wonder, does he regret it now, Pochettino, given they're under a bit of pressure the last few weeks?
I'm not. Listen, I actually got to have a chat with him quickly yesterday for a little bit, privately to go, but I'm not too sure. You know, from that sense, Amazon are going to go in there, and I presume it's going to be controlled to some extent. I actually met the guys from Amazon yesterday. They've set up all the cameras. It's going to be very intimate, as you'd expect. It's behind scenes, and it'd be definitely interesting to watch. But I don't know how much more pressure it's going to add. People know most things about a club at this stage anyway. There's no real revelations when these programmes come out. There's nothing you didn't really know.
No, it won't be like the Sunderland one anyway. I hope they're not going to get relegated.
No, I don't think so. No, I think that was a bit more doom and gloom than what this would be.
The Manchester City one wasn't great.
No, like I said, I think that these big clubs are only going to do it to, gain fans. They're not going to be doing it to give any insight into the club when things are going bad.
Yeah, the first team Juventus one was worse.
Most things, so.
I'm currently in a situation where I have no actual TV channels, but I do have Amazon Prime. So I find myself going through all these documentaries. So I watched one last night on Steven Gerrard.
Okay.
Oh, I've seen that one. Yeah.
That was not one of my better life decisions, I can assure you. But they're all there must be about 12 of these all or nothings from American baseball teams, American football teams. It's one of Borussia Dortmund that actually isn't.
Are Sunderland
terrible?
Are they doing
There is a second series that's going to be out in the next. Yeah, no, it finished. So there was one at the end of last season, unless they're doing a third series.
They changed manager again.
The second series is. The
best part of that was cranky Aidan Vigidi. He was gloriously cranky, I thought.
Yeah. So. It's interesting Tottenham are doing it because Pochettino obviously released his book, which was a diary of a season.
Yeah. But he got grief over that, didn't he? He got a bit of grief too,
your most famous follower, I'm going to go for, so it's between three.
Okay.
Kieran Westwood.
Okay.
Darren O'Dea.
Right.
Yeah.
And Greg Halford.
Oh, Greg, I forgot Greg's on there.
Did you play with Greg Halford?
Played with Greg at Rotherham for one season, yeah. Well, a season and a half, basically, yeah.
At Stephen Kelly _2 is your...
okay. Hopefully, he
does follow me on Twitter.
I'm going to follow him back. I could be deleting this in a week or two. We'll see what happens.
You were I remember we had a debate about it before. You were definitely wrestling with it, Stephen. You were definitely
honestly... this is probably going to get me no fans, but I the thought of...
I think anybody on Twitter is an idiot.
I'm posting a picture of breakfast or something I'm doing just literally makes me sick to my stomach. The thoughts of, I have no interest in that. I don't understand it, but I suppose from a work perspective and now what you're doing and you're working in the media, from that sense, I feel like it should be letting people know what I'm working on or the stations I'm working with, and it's more of a work-based thing than anything else. It's not going to be too intimate or about my family because that's very private to me. But these people, I don't know. I'm sure I don't want to offend half the country by saying what they tweet. But it's some of the stuff that people put on Twitter is not my cup of tea.
Yeah, but there'll be no drunk tweeting at 3 a.m. though. I hope.
No,
that's dangerous. Hide your phone if you're getting involved in the Colleen and Rebecca Vardy.
I don't want to say we have real power and influence, but you had 42 followers. You now have 46 followers.
There we go.
In the space of 5 minutes.
Dramatically over that course.
And apparently you had 39 an hour ago, so this is going swimmingly.
By the end of this, I'll be back down to about 20.
Latest scores in the Premier League. It's still scoreless between Chelsea and Newcastle, heading towards the hour mark in all these games. Bournemouth 0, Norwich 0. Aston Villa have equalised in their game against Brighton. I will bring you that goal very shortly.
Equalised before half-time.
Equalised before half-time. You see,
Aaron Connolly's taken off at half-time.
Because Brighton are down to 10 men.
Yeah, Solly March is on from.
Jack Grealish with that equaliser for Aston Villa. Aaron Moy was sent off. It is Leicester 1, Burnley 1. Jamie Vardy with the goal, the equaliser for Leicester just before half-time. Spurs still 1-0 down at home against Watford, and it's scoreless between Wolves and Southampton. Palace Manchester City's the late game. We'll bring you the team news on that when we get it in. Everton beat West Ham 2-0 earlier. Stephen, just on Spurs, you were down there and you were talking to Maurizio Pochettino. So, look, if they lose this, do you fear the worst for Pochettino?
No. Honestly, I think he should have so much grace for what he's done at their club and the level he's got them to performance-wise. Like the fact that they were in the Champions League final last year says it all. If Tottenham were really considering bringing in another manager that they think is going to be better than him at the moment, I think they'd be hard-pressed to find someone. So the fans love him. I think the club love him. The players love him as well, I think, by all accounts. So you'd find it very hard. I'd be really, really surprised if they were to pull the trigger and get rid of him. I think he's definitely awarded himself some grace and to get back going. And with the lack of signings that they had over the last few seasons, they've probably overachieved for the squad they have, and the fact that hasn't changed too much. So I just think they need to find their feet again. They need to get a good win in their belt. Obviously today's game is not going too well, and at home against probably the worst team in the league at the moment, that's not going to sit too well with the team. But they've got too many good players and a good manager to be in this for too long, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Watford hadn't won a single game all season, so if their first win of the season comes at Spurs, where remember they've also already lost against Newcastle, there's certainly going to be some serious questions asked. 53106 is the text number. It's Stephen Kelly on the line on this Saturday's Off the Ball. Dan McDonnell and Kieran Cunningham in studio. Let's go to Stamford Bridge, see what's happening between Chelsea and Newcastle. Andrew Cheal.
Chelsea 0, Newcastle 0 it remains. Chelsea have come closest just a minute or so ago. Zuma with the header onto the bar. Newcastle could have been forgiven if they'd come out for the second half looking as if they were saying to everybody, well, we'll be happy to hold on to what we have. But when Chelsea gave the ball away cheaply a couple of times, they were encouraged to send more support for solo striker Joe Linton. Hasn't done much good so far though. Hudson-Odoi, as he has been throughout, remains Chelsea's biggest threat. It's Chelsea 0, Newcastle 0.
Let's check in on Spurs. They're up against Watford, still 1-0 down. Guy Swindles.
Spurs 0, Watford 1, and certainly it's all been happening since the second half got underway. First of all, Heung-min Son came on. He's already hit the bar and had a possible penalty claim. The shot against the bar, an excellent one, the penalty claim less so. But at the other end, Deulofeu in the end set up Pereira when it looked easier for him to score. And Aurier, with a fine saving tackle, snuffed out that danger. Spurs 0, Watford 1.
To the Vitality, Bournemouth against Norwich. Alan Lewis.
It's still Bournemouth 0, Norwich 0, but the game has certainly stepped up a gear or two since half-time. For Norwich, Pukki's shot almost deflected into his own net by Steve Cook. Amadou headed over from the resulting corner, and at the other end, a ball played in by Diego Rico was flicked on by Callum Wilson, and that bounced inches wide off the post. Bournemouth 0, Norwich 0.
At the King Power, it's Leicester against Burnley. Derek Clark.
It's Leicester City 1, Burnley 1. Not a lot to shout about in the second 45 so far, it has to be said. Burnley very well organised. Leicester have had a couple of opportunities, but this came from long range and they've went over the bar from Maddison and Tielemans. It's Leicester City 1, Burnley 1.
Southampton have gone in front away against Wolves. I remember Wolves had a goal disallowed. We have that goal between Wolves and Southampton. Alex Winter.
It's Wolves 0, Southampton 1. Danny Ings giving the visitors the lead. The home side still smarting perhaps from their goal just before half-time, ruled out by VAR, but they lost the ball very, very poorly at the top of their own penalty area, allowed Ings to nip in, drive in towards the top of the area and slide past Raul Patricio to give the visitors the lead. Moments earlier, Ings had wasted a similar chance actually, curling a right foot shot down to Patricio's left. He was able to palm that one away, but the second attempt, his second chance of the half, Ings' 6th goal of the season gives Saints the lead. Wolves 0, Southampton 1.
Celtic are 5-0 up against Ross County in the Scottish Premiership. In La Liga, Barcelona 3-0 winners away at Eibar. The goals there from Griezmann, Messi and Suarez. Currently it's Atletico Madrid 1-0 up against Valencia. Diego Costa with a penalty for Atletico Madrid. And in the Championship, earlier it finished 2-2 between Blackburn and Huddersfield. Millwall 2-0 up away in their game against Brentford. And looking at that Millwall side, Jason Malumbi starting in the middle of midfield for Millwall yet again. Charlton 2-0 up against Derby County. It is 1-1 between Hull and Queen's Park Rangers. Scoreless between Leeds and Birmingham. Luton have gone 1-0 up against Bristol City. Scoreless between Middlesbrough and West Brom. And in the game between Reading and Preston, while Stoke still with that early goal leading Fulham by 1-0. Quick break and then we're going to talk more about the Republic of Ireland.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
This week's show is coming to you from Seattle with thanks to Aer Lingus. While it may be the birthplace of grunge and the home of Meredith Grey, it is very much a tech city. We'll hear from Enterprise Ireland about the opportunities for Irish tech companies. I'll visit the famous Pike Place Market and sit down with the Chief Technology Officer of the city.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
Thanks to mintplus.ie.
Download and subscribe to the podcast now or tune in this evening at 5.
On News Talk.
Exciting afternoons with Harvey Norman. Bring the cinema home with an ultra-high-definition smart TV and surround sound from Harvey Norman. The cinema experience with no queues and no trailers.
Go, Harvey, go!
Ever wondered what superb sounds like? Silence. Exhale the day's toll. A seat that remembers its driver. A touchscreen entertainment system. Start the engine at the push of a button. And go. The new Skoda Superb. If it sounds this good, just imagine what it looks like.
Simplify how your business books and pays for taxis with Link. Link Taxis offers an all-in-one priority booking service dedicated to business in Dublin. So whether you're booking from the office, heading to the airport, or caught in a downpour, let one of our professional drivers get you there. Book online, by app, or give us a call. Choose how you pay, with options to use cash, card, or business account. Get your business moving with Link. To start booking or to learn more, visit link.ie. LYNK.
Did you know that electronic and lighting equipment are two waste streams that are free to recycle? Just bring them to your local authority recycling centre or electrical retailer and save on your waste charges today. Recycle for free with We. For details on what and where you can recycle, go to smallthingsmatter.ie. This is a message from We Ireland, the scheme for electrical and battery recycling.
Closing time. A girl sits alone on the curb, head down, worse for wear.
Do you remember me?
This young lad sits beside her. No. Says he knows her, can walk her to her place.
Your friends told me to take you home.
His pals don't blink when she staggers and falls. They shrug it off with,
nice work, pal.
Here, better leave it to it.
Enough is enough. Let's stop excusing sexual harassment and sexual violence. Learn more at gov.ie/no excuses or in an emergency call 999. This is an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Okay, kids, and we're off.
And we're not.
Talk to Liberty Insurance about getting a great deal on your car insurance with Breakdown Assist, including Home Start, on all our policies. Switch today and get up to 5 weeks free when you get a quote and buy online.
Try it now.
Liberty Insurance. Ready for the real world. Maximum 3 call-outs per year. Online discount applies to new private car policies only. 5 weeks free equals a 10% discount. Maximum discount €150. Subject to a minimum premium and apply before optional covers. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Liberty Seguros, Compañía de Seguros, Araya Seguros, S.A.A. trading as Liberty Insurance is authorised by the General Directorate of Insurance and Pension Funds in Spain and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.
DNA IT Solutions and IBM Cloud are making it easy for every business to stop owning hardware and benefit from cloud technology. For any size of business, no matter what your requirements are, you can benefit from the IBM Cloud. All managed for you by DNA IT. With enterprise security and reliability, pay for what you use on a monthly basis with complete flexibility and great value rates. Contact DNA IT Solutions today to arrange your free IBM Cloud Readiness consultation.
It's back and it's bigger than ever before. The Harvey Norman warehouse sale at the National Show Centre in Swords is now on, with up to 70% off appliances, technology and interiors. Massive discounts on big screen TVs, washing machines, dishwashers, coffee machines, laptops, smartphones, sofas, dining furniture, beds, mattresses, duvets, pillows, kitchenware and much more. Limited stock, ex-display, end-of-line clearance, it all must go. The Harvey Norman warehouse sale this Saturday and Sunday only from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the National Show Centre in Swords. Don't miss out.
Go! At DoneDeal, we have more cars from trusted car dealerships than any other site in Ireland. So whether you're looking for the latest SUV model or an approved used car, you can always be sure to find exactly the right car for you. DoneDeal, Ireland's largest car showroom, in the palm of your hand.
You told us you don't like cider that's too sweet. And you also told us you don't like cider that's too dry. Well, there's great news for you, because we don't make our delicious Appleman cider either of those things. So now all we have to do is ask you to try it. Simple. Here we go. Order an Appleman cider. Or making this ad was a complete waste of time. Appleman's, the joy in simple. Always drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.ie.
This Halloween at Lidl. Sorry, a bit of a sore throat there. Now, this Halloween at Lidl, make spooky savings on our fun-size mini Milky Way, Twix, Mars, Cadbury Heroes or Buttons. Mix and match just 3 for €5. Lidl, more for boo. More for you. It's supposed to be more for you.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Jeff and Heskey.
So Spurs still 1-0 down at home against bottom of the table Watford. There are 6 Premier League games ongoing. It's scoreless between Bournemouth and Norwich, 1-1 between Aston Villa and Brighton, scoreless between Chelsea and Newcastle. Leicester 1, Burnley 1, as I say. Spurs 1-0 down in their game against Watford. And there's been a goal at Molineux, a second of the game between Wolves and Southampton. Alex Winter.
It's Wolves 1, Southampton 1. The home side level, courtesy of Raul Jimenez from the penalty spot. A mazy run from a half-time substitute, Matt Doherty. He was brought down at the most minimal of contact. VAR checked the referee's decision to award a penalty and, surprisingly for me, upheld it. But it gave Jimenez the chance to slide in the right-footed penalty and bring Wolves level. 63 minutes played. It's Wolves 1, Southampton 1.
Dan McDonnell, Kieran Cunningham in studio, Stephen Kelly on the line. 53106 for your texts, and lots of them coming in about both the rugby and the football. Like the rugby, the under-21s are overhyped because of 1 or 2 good results. Losing to Iceland has been brushed under the carpet for one reason or another. Is one reason to protect Stephen Kenny? That result was simply not acceptable. As for the seniors, what teams in the top 100 would you put your shirt on the beating?
Oh, that's a problem. Well, see, ironically, about the under-21s, you said it was 45 people at the under-21.
I saw some footage of it.
It actually, it was on and this is an interesting thing, and it's going the other way. It actually seems like the criticism of the 21s in that game would have been that maybe they didn't respond to the conditions well enough, that it was an astral pitch. I think there was a driving wind.
It was a bit like the Gibraltar game for the senior team.
And they actually, so I think people are just looking at the result and go, well, there's a body of work with the 21s across the year from Toulon to now. We're over 9-10 games. You're seeing a style develop, and actually they didn't respond great to something where it was a bit of adversity.
Bit of Route 1 wouldn't have gone astray.
So actually that's what happened. So no, I
was overshadowed because it was the same day as the senior team.
Yeah, I don't think you can swing too much both ways on 21's results. There was, and I think there was a lot of excitement around the Sweden game. And Sweden come to Tala next month in a big qualifier. Sweden had beaten Iceland 5-0 a couple of days previously. So you're trying to figure out where the levels are. But Iceland's home record has been very good. They hammered Armenia, whereas Ireland beat them 1-0. So no, I don't think that's to protect Stephen Kenny at all. I think people are probably have to try and find a middle ground of being reasonable. To find a style. To try and the 21s have developed a style and a pattern over a number of games, but naturally they're going to have to mix it up sometimes as well, and maybe that was the problem during the week.
Yeah, and it's always the way with underage teams. There's always blips.
Yeah,
even the best underage teams Ireland have ever had, there were blips. It's the nature of young players, particularly when you have a really young bunch there. They must be one of the youngest bunches in the competition, I would say.
Yeah, they are. No, they're basically an under-19 team, so this is the thing, and they were missing, obviously, this is the thing, you call for players to be promoted, but then if you lose Connolly, and then Parrott was obviously suspended, Darragh Leahy's been injured, Afolabi, players who played in, 4 big players in the Sweden game, for example. So, but, the 21s now are all. You can't get excited about one and then jostle over another as well.
Yeah.
And you have this weird barometer now that every 21's result is either Kenny is great or maybe Kenny's overhyped. It's like this is my point. There is no middle ground reaction.
But it's going back to the thing. There's a lack of patience. Like people just think. You know, you have to be on
the
it.
Modern world, the modern world, Kieran. I'd no issue with the Switzerland
as well, though, because of the fact he's going to take the job. Everything now that he does is going to be so much more scrutinised than what it would have been if they didn't know he was getting the senior job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That is the case, definitely.
I had no issue with the Switzerland result as we just got beat by a better team, but the Georgia performance was one of the worst I've ever seen. So many unforced errors and complete lack of a game plan. Another one, how's Ethan Ampadu at Wales doing it at senior international level? Hasn't played a game of senior men's club football since 2017.
It's true. I mean, this is the point. I mean, there are a couple of nations who don't necessarily subscribe to he needs to play X amount for his club. I mean, Wales are the obvious one because it was Ben Woodburn as well, wasn't there? There's a couple of times they've thrown people in.
Is it slightly different, and I'm probably going to contradict myself in one way, that Wales do have a very experienced team around Ethan Ampadu, Stephen? Like, they have the likes of Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, like genuine world-class players, so that they can sort of bring Ampadu in. But to contradict that in a way, like, Ampadu's playing in a very central position for something. Like, he's very much trying to run the show from midfield.
Yeah, that is a... Like, we are probably going to contradict ourselves when you look at that and you think, right, well, he's come in, done it, what can other players do? And that is a very valid point. But if you think about Ampadu in the game he played against Ireland, he was probably the best player on the pitch. Like, he was outstanding that match. So he's earned his right to be in that team. And if other players from the other 21s, if Kenny can bring them up, even if they're not playing senior level football, which I think is important, I feel, you know, Ampadu is probably the small minority of players that can perform at international level that wouldn't have done it at senior football level. There wouldn't be that many that would perform at the level he does and doesn't play for their club at any level, which is, you know, it's hard to do. So for us going forward, there might be one or two that could do it. And another point I make, which again is probably contradicting the point I made earlier, the whole thing with Troy Parrott. I know I don't want to harp on about this, but Troy Parrott, he's trying to break into Tottenham, and in front of him is arguably one of the best centre forwards in the world, which I know people seem to hate when I say that, but he is. Harry Kane is one of the best centre forwards in the world. Troy Parrott's trying to get into that team ahead of him. If Troy Parrott was in, and again I don't like saying this, was in a top level championship team or a mediocre towards the bottom premiership team, which is probably the level you'd put Ireland at, would he play in that team? Probably have got a chance by now more than he did at Tottenham. You know what I mean? So if you're comparing like for like the level that Ireland are at and the level Tottenham at, Tottenham, one thing, hard to get into that squad. Again, they're not playing great, but the squad they have are much better. Ireland, what would they be classed as? It would be probably a bottom of the table premiership team, a top end championship team. Would he have a chance again to that team? More likely.
Yeah.
Another text in.
I'm contradicting myself slightly in what I'm saying, but
it's all right.
And you look at it from different ways, you can kind of see different aspects of it.
You're going to find yourself contradicting yourself a lot now because you're on Twitter, and I've got good news for you, Stephen.
That's actually the secret to a good career in media, is to contradict yourself regularly.
You now have 79 followers.
Classic example.
You've more than doubled your followers since the show started.
Oh well, that's the influence off the ball can have, which is why I love you guys.
Goal at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea against Newcastle. Andrew Cheal.
Chelsea 1, Newcastle 0. It's been coming for some time. Marcus Alonso scored the goal, set up by Hudson-Odoi. Alonso's left footer lashed in from 15 yards, wide angle but well controlled into the far corner. Keeper got a hand to it but couldn't keep it out. It's Chelsea 1, Newcastle 0.
Text from Shane in Cork. Why are some players beyond criticism? Coleman's had a poor campaign for both club and country. There's no doubt he's been a stalwart, but again, him and the likes of Hendrick and McLean have underperformed. Collins is out of his depth, and asking Connolly to hold the line on his own is totally unrealistic. In terms of creativity, why not put in Jack Byrne? We're not bulging with talent in that area unless we start filtering in the 21s. Let's talk about Seamus Coleman then, and first, let's hear from John Giles on his thoughts on Seamus Coleman's performance on Tuesday night.
I think what happens with Seamus is, with him being captain, I think he takes too much on himself, Nathan. I mean, the main thing contribution you make as captain is to play well yourself. And I think with Seamus, I think he knows we're not playing well, and he was getting the ball in full back positions a few times. And in my opinion, he was trying to do what the midfield players weren't doing. Right? It's not right, but I can understand where he's coming from. He's such a good lad that he thinks, I've got to get it going because I'm the captain. And as captain, as I said before, all he's got to do is play well himself, do the right things. But I can understand where he's coming from, because he's such a good lad, he's so willing to do well, that he would take something on himself in the right back position that actually is a minus instead of a plus. But doing it for the right reasons.
He obviously ended up getting sent off, and
but he's been unlucky on that
with the handball. But there was the skirmish with Granit Xhaka, and it's been similar enough at Everton. He's now the Everton captain as well, getting in referees' faces. Just seems quite angry quite a lot of the time at the moment. And interesting, over the last 24, 48 hours, listening to some players who played with him and would know him, and saying it's quite unlike him, that there seems to be some sort of a frustration.
It would be frustrating, because he knows they're not playing well.
You think it's that they're not playing well, not that maybe his form isn't where he'd want it to be?
No, he wouldn't be as good at his form because the others not playing well. In other words, he's taking too much on himself. Like, he thinks, I've got to do it, I've got to get in there, I've got to do some of the things that the other lads are not doing.
Stephen, you obviously played a similar position to Seamus Coleman. His, I don't want to say behaviour maybe isn't the right term of phrase for Tuesday night, but his general performance level, firstly, maybe even getting away from the red card and his role as captain, do you think there has been a dip in his form over the last year?
To be honest, at one point I thought he was getting back to the levels he was at before he had his injury. I think it's taken him a long while to get back to that level that we all know and love, with Seamus driving forward and his tenacity. So I felt at one point he was getting back to that. But again, I think it's a bit of it's a combination of everything. His level has probably dropped off slightly, but the pressure he'd be under a club, because they're under a lot of pressure at the moment, and he is the club captain. So at the moment, they've not been going through a good spell. They've won today, and he's not been in the team, which is, I'm sure, extremely frustrating for him, because he's suspended. So he's going to be fighting for his place now again next week, because the manager's going to have a decision to make. So that would have been an added pressure. And you're talking about spilling over not his behaviour, but like if he's getting frustrated and talking to the referees. And then with Ireland, the criticism that Ireland been under over the last few months has been, they've got a lot. Even though we're in a position where we can still qualify, there's been a lot of criticism over the performance level. So for him, he would be taking that on, because he is deemed as the captain for both those sides, and that's a lot of pressure to be on his shoulders. So you can see that might affect the way he's playing, affect his game, and possibly just overthinking, because Seamus is a very natural player. So when he goes out and just does things and not think about it, it seems to flow and works well for him, and he offers so much. And again, you do think he was trying to take a lot, and he was trying to go past players and create opportunities, and he was looking up and there was nothing on for a pass, so he was trying to beat people in his own area. And sometimes that comes off, but when it doesn't come off, as a fullback, you're leaving yourself in a lot of trouble, because you're in the defensive position, you're putting people on the counter-attack, so it's hard. It's a difficult place for him to be in, and his performance could be better, but you can see why it's dropped off a little bit.
John Jaw's point is, I guess, your first job as captain is to do your job, is to do the simple things and do them right. And you do just, I don't worry that Seamus Coleman takes the responsibility to be an Ireland captain almost too seriously. Like, he very much feels it. And obviously I've spoken to him a lot after games. One of the reasons he comes out and talks every time is because he's the Ireland captain, and he feels he needs to go out and represent. And I don't even think he's faking it, when most of the time he says a lot of the same thing about pride, bravery, pulling on the green jersey, what it means. Because for him, that's true.
It's funny. It's interesting. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was up in Donegal. My local club were playing a GAA championship game, but it was played in Killybegs grounds, and they have redeveloped their ground. But a friend of mine was managing the team, so I was in the dressing room beforehand. But it's very unusual, because there's a plaque on the wall with a quote, and normally, you would get that in various dressing rooms, various GAA dressing rooms, but it's a quote from Seamus, about the club and what it means to him, which is very unusual, to have a Premier League soccer player in a GAA dressing room like that. But it kind of hit home to me why people admire him so much, that he's very rooted in his community, and it really matters to him. And I think you see that on the pitch now. This captain in Ireland is such a massive deal to him, and he's also got the pressure of being captain of Everton in a team that have largely been struggling. Obviously, they had a good win today when he was out suspended, but I think John Giles is right in that he's forcing it a little bit. He's trying to do more than he should, and I wonder, having the two armbands, is that too much pressure? Given, he's 32 in a couple of weeks. There aren't that many 32-year-old full-backs in the Premier League, and he hasn't hit the same form consistently since he came back from that injury. I think he's played well in patches, but not at the same level week on week.
There's more and more a touch of the Roy Keanes off Seamus Coleman in his attitude towards certainly modern football. Like, there's a lot of quotes about Coleman and, 23-year-olds who can't wash their own clothes, and you get the sense he's in that Everton dressing room, probably the Ireland dressing room isn't that similar. He's looking around at a lot of the younger players and wondering where that hunger, where that fight is that for him was so key.
Yeah, it's a tough one because he does tick so many of the boxes for what you would want a national captain to be. In terms of actually a sort of a role model, doesn't drink. He's a very
he's a Paul O'Connell type figure, but because it's a footballer, we don't talk about him in that way.
He's very beloved, and definitely great story as sort of Kieran touches on, a role model in the sense of where he's come from and from where he was a decade ago to now. It's a great story. Only he knows in his head really if it's somehow it's impacting on his display. It's a tough one because we're looking for you're looking for reasons why things aren't working, and there's that one which isn't great because you're suggesting that in some ways some form of pressure is getting to him. The other one is that he hasn't got back to his best from the injury, which that's not great either. And the other one is age, which isn't there's no good equation there. And maybe he got off in the wrong headspace coming into this window with a sending off for his club, and I think at times when Seamus Coleman has played for Ireland, he's tried to he's been inhibited by the team. He's an attacking fullback, but you can only get, and Stephen would know this, you can only make the runs if your team has got enough control of possession and the ball to actually bring you into the game.
Well, look at Matt Doherty in the game today.
Yeah,
he looked the shadow of the player that we see week in, week out for Wolves, because he's playing a team that don't keep the ball and don't create those opportunities for him to get forward. So you're a completely different player depending on the players you're playing with.
Yeah, but I do think though as well that just because of all those positive attributes about Coleman, that he's not above criticism, and that on Tuesday he just, some of his basic sort of execution and ball control and use of the ball was poor, and I don't know what the reason for that is. He just didn't look at it at all.
But like I said, I think as well, he's experienced enough now to know that even if he feels like the onus is on him to drive us forward, do things, that he doesn't have to do that, and you have to take risks and take chances in the right areas. So when he was trying to take people on and do things in areas where you normally wouldn't see him do that, he does sometimes, but not all the time. And in a game where the pitch wasn't that great either, you're going to just put yourself under pressure and put the team under pressure. So that's not the best for the team to be doing. So he needed to make sure that his level of performance was adequate for what we needed in that game, and whether it be picking the right pass, just not be getting caught on the ball in silly areas and put us under caution.
We spent so much time talking about Coleman since the injury, and as you say, where he is in terms of his lost a yard of pace. Is he ever going to get back to where he was? Is he there? 2 weeks ago, he was arguably the best player on the pitch against Manchester City. And we all thought actually he is very much back. And then this happens, and it's clearly difficult in terms of the change in scenery, and that you watch him for Everton and he basically has two balls. One is a ball up along the line for Richarlison, and one is a short ball into the centre to Andre Gomez, and they keep hold of possession, whereas there doesn't seem to be any of that structure with Ireland.
Yeah, he's played with probably a different right-sided player in pretty much every game.
And Matt Doherty certainly wasn't the worst of them, it turns out.
No, and Robinson has struggled a couple of times, and I mean, I think it's just particularly frustrating for him because the sort of personality of what that Denmark game at home could be like. You could actually see him sort of thriving in that, and now you're hoping that it's Matt Doherty who thrives, and that Ireland have enough of the ball in that game that Doherty can actually get across the halfway line and show what he can do and give it to the team another dimension in that way. But I mean, that's the thing. You do feel sort of awful sympathy for him in the sense that having missed that defining game 2 years ago, he's going to miss it again this time, and there's no doubt that type of game would suit him more than Switzerland were so powerful and athletic, and it was one of those things that would make you worry, but you have to also balance it, as you say, by saying he's played well against Man City in very recent memory. So we do have a tendency of writing off players a bit quickly sometimes, Oh,
well, the thing is, even though Everton have struggled, if you watch most of the games Seamus has played, he hasn't really struggled in those games. He's actually performed quite well in this season. I know there's a lot of talk about it, but on average, he's probably been good to better and good. He hasn't performed poorly really. So his form going into this game was decent. So it's just frustrating that, again, I do think the sense of responsibility that takes on himself sometimes overtakes him, and he does things that he doesn't normally or wouldn't normally do at club level.
Leicester have come from behind to lead Burnley by 2-1. Yuri Tielemans with the second goal for Leicester. Robbie Brady went off just before that goal. So the latest scores in the Premier League with around 4 or 5 minutes left in all these games. It is Chelsea 1, Newcastle 0, Spurs still 1-0 down at home against Watford. Scoreless between Bournemouth and Norwich, 1-1 between Aston Villa and Brighton. Leicester 2-1 up against Burnley, and it's 1-1 between Wolves and Southampton. Crystal Palace against Manchester City is the late game. And just very quickly running through the Manchester City side, or maybe looking at the bench is a bit of a better option. Sergio Aguero among the substitutes for Manchester City. Raheem Sterling starts, as does Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne. We'll bring you through the teams in full right after these.
Listen back to your favourite News Talk shows at newstalk.com and on the News Talk app.
What would you expect from the new Volkswagen Passat? An elegant dynamic exterior and spacious interior? Advanced driver assistance systems for easier, safer driving? A plug-in hybrid option for a cleaner, greener drive? Expect all that and more, so you can be more and do more. The new Volkswagen Passat. What did you expect? Search Volkswagen Passat.
At Electric Ireland, we're all about real commitment. Just like the Saturday sports chaperone who's battled through weather and traffic all season and driven further than a Kerry to Derry bus driver. It's why we keep giving our gas and electricity customers the 8.5% savings they get on day one, no matter how long they're with us. For real commitment, visit electricireland.ie. Electric Ireland. Smarter living. Estimated annual bill €1,736, based on average consumption, urban 24-hour, discounted unit rate, standing charge PSO levy and carbon tax, residential dual fuel direct debit and online billing. Terms and conditions apply. See electricireland.ie/EAB. Rates as of 9th of September 2019, subject to change.
The Health and Safety Authority and Irish National Accreditation Board are getting Brexit ready. Do you place products such as machinery on the Irish or EU market using a UK-based notified body for conformity checks? If so, then you need to change to an EU-based notified body. To see how your company can make the transition, visit hsa.ie/Brexit. The Health and Safety Authority and Irish National Accreditation Board. Getting Irish enterprises Brexit ready. This is an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
At the Plaza Group, winning national awards are always nice, like the best motorway service station at the Barack Obama Plaza, Moneygall, and best forecourt facilities at the Galway Plaza. But ensuring you're a happy customer is the real prize for us. Quality fuel and forecourts, Supermax, Papa John's Pizza, Super Subs, Max Place Deli, Beauty's Coffee, and Spar. The Plaza Group. Come for the fuel, stay for the food. Award-winning and part of your community. Now open in Kinnegad, just 2 minutes from all Kinnegad exits.
The Brexit die is cast. But what does it really mean? In this week's Sunday Independent, get the expert insights from the writers who really know. In Life, we go inside the charming home of best-selling writer Cathy Kelly. In Living, Liz Bunnan talks racism, ambition, and being the next David Attenborough. Plus, in Sunday Business, the essential step-by-step guide to pay and file. And in Sport, what next for the Irish rugby team? Sunday Independent, the complete read.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the runway. Beauty has landed big time to the Loop at T2 Dublin Airport. Experience the ultimate beauty destination, bigger and better than ever before. And save at least 15% compared to the high street. That's some takeoff. Over 30 new brands and exclusive products. Don't forget to make time to shop before you fly. Ireland's best beauty hall at Dublin Airport is big on beauty, small on price. Shop online at theloop.ie.
Kids grow. It's what they do. Legs stretch, arms extend, tiny fingers branch out. Before you know it, your little people are anything but. If only your place would grow with them. But walls don't stretch and ceilings won't extend. Which is why if you're thinking of moving house, it's always worth talking to the Ulster Bank mortgage team to see how we could help. Talk to us today. Ulster Bank. Help for what matters. Over 18s and Republic of Ireland residents only. Ulster Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Today at Power City, get big savings on all your favourite electrical brands during our Purple Tag sale event. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
We do it in the toilet, in the car, in bed. We do it from anywhere. We love online shopping. So if your business isn't online, you're missing out big time. Buy a .ie today from hostingireland.ie and get a website free for a year. So wherever your customers are, they'll always be able to find you. Get started at hostingireland.ie.
If you run a growing business, you understand the importance of business management software and know when it's holding you back.
At Intact, we provide perfect fit, industry-driven business software solutions that are designed to get your business operating at its best. So if you're experiencing stock management issues, unable to access real-time data, or working with slow, dated systems, Intact can help. Our local expert team will help you deliver the best version of your business. To elevate yours, visit intact.ie.
This Halloween at Lidl. Sorry, a bit of a sore throat there. Now, this Halloween at Lidl, make spooky savings on our fun-size mini Milky Way, Twix, Mars, Cadbury Heroes or Buttons. Mix and match just 3 for €5. Lidl, more for boo. More for you. It's supposed to be more for you.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. The greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
Goal at Spurs. It's Tottenham against Watford. Guy Swindles.
Spurs 1, Watford 1, with just 5 minutes remaining, and Watford looking as if they were comfortably going to hold on to their lead. A catastrophic muddle between the keeper Ben Foster and the substitute Firmini left Dele Alli able to shoulder the ball down, bring it forward and tuck into an empty net. There was a long check on VAR to see if it was a handball. It was not given. It hit his shoulder. Spurs 1, Watford 1.
I think it's fair to say they needed that goal, and they need something from Dele Alli as well over the next few weeks. He's had a huge dip in form. A reminder that tomorrow we have full live coverage of Manchester United against Liverpool. 4:30 at Old Trafford. Myself and Kev are going to be there. Stephen, it's hard to make a case for Manchester United on what we've seen this season. The conventional wisdom seems to be they'll try the Jose Mourinho-esque park the bus, that they will sit back and defend and just hope for the best. Do they have that in them? Do they have the players who can do that?
I'm not too sure that would work against Liverpool. Liverpool are so good going forward that you realistically, even if you park the bus, they still got a chance of breaking your apart and scoring goals. They're just such a threat. Like, they've got such pace. They've got such, I suppose, ingenuity between those three. You know, they don't have that creative midfielder that you'd love to see in the team as well. But as a front three, even if they park the bus, you still think they're going to struggle to not concede against them. But you know, it's just such come a long way from Man United to think they're going to be parking the bus at Old Trafford against Liverpool. Like, it's crazy to think that that's what we're talking about. Like, it's unbelievable.
It is this time, probably, I think 2 years ago, that was the one time where there was questions about Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. They were struggling against the sort of mid-table teams at home. There were a lot of draws, just really, and probably a bit flaky at the back. And that's obviously completely gone now. The main thing that Klopp has done, I guess, Kieran, over the last couple of years is figure out a way of how to beat these mid-table teams.
Yeah, well, they have changed their way of playing. Like 2 seasons ago, they were tremendously exciting to watch. But, you know, like the City game in January of that season when, you know, what had finished 4-3 at Anfield. Yeah. You know, and they should really have won that 4-1. But they had that in them that they would let teams back in. And last season, it did become a more patient build-up and taking their time and not panicking. And you do see that lack of panic now. Like, when so I think somebody pointed out the most depressing sight in football is seeing a scoreline with Milner penalty 90+5. Like, they tend to just get, they'll get the job done when it seems to be going against them. And the weird thing about the United thing, like, you could argue that City have a tougher game this weekend than Liverpool. Like, City are away to Palace. They've dropped points to Palace the last 2 seasons. Like, Liverpool haven't won at Old Trafford in 5 years, but you would expect them to win this one, given how poor United have been lately. The one thing I would say, often after international breaks, so Liverpool have been a bit ropey. And 3 key players, Firmino, Mane and Fabinho, all travelled 14,500 miles. I think the other average for international players in international duty was 2.5. And he's often rested, Firmino in particular, after international games. But I think he can't afford to do that tomorrow. I think he'd probably do it in the Champions League next week against Genk, which is a game they would expect to win. But for me, there's particularly with the doubts over Mo Salah, I think he'll have to play Firmino.
Let's get the full times from the 3 o'clock kickoffs in the Premier League. There was a big fist pump from Frank Lampard because it was a tough day for Chelsea against Newcastle. Andrew Cheel.
Chelsea 1, Newcastle 0. Patience and perseverance pay off for Chelsea. 90 minutes hard work counts for nothing as far as Newcastle are concerned. It took till 15 minutes from time for Chelsea to score. Alonso lashed the left footer low into the far corner. Before that, Zuma's header hit the bar. Abraham headed one wastefully wide. Mount brought a decent save from the keeper. There was an occasional faint threat from Newcastle on the break, but they never really stretched Kepa in the Chelsea goal. It finished Chelsea 1, Newcastle 0.
Yeah, so victory for Chelsea there. That moves them up the table and temporarily up to third in the Premier League table. Let's go to the Vitality Stadium. Bournemouth against Norwich. Alan Lewis.
It's finished Bournemouth 0, Norwich 0. A fair result in a scrappy and sometimes sloppy encounter. Bournemouth's Dominic Solanke with the only chance of a poor first half. The game picked up after the break. Pukki forced an excellent save from Ramsdale in the Bournemouth goal. Kenny McLean and Tom Tribal also went close. At the other end, Callum Wilson was inches away from breaking the deadlock. Danjuma also forced a good save from Tim Krul. In the end, both teams get their first clean sheets of the season. Bournemouth 0, Norwich 0.
And to the King Power Stadium, Leicester City, second in the Premier League table. They were taking on Burnley today. Derek Clark.
Full-time Leicester City 2, Burnley 1. The Foxes moved second for the time being with a hard-fought win. Chris Wood headed Burnley in front in 26 minutes before Jamie Vardy scored a header of his own on the stroke of half-time. Yuri Tielemans fired the Foxes ahead on 73 minutes, and then Burnley had an equaliser ruled out by VAR when Chris Wood was adjudged to have tripped Johnny Evans, who put the ball into his own net. It was one of the harshest calls you're ever likely to see. It's finished here, Leicester City 2, Burnley 1.
Spurs left it late, but they managed to get a point at home against Watford. Guy Swindles.
Spurs 0, Watford 1. Decore giving Watford the lead after 6 minutes, and they held on until the 86th minute when a mix-up between Foster and Firmino saw Dele Alli burst through and tuck the ball home. There was an extended VAR debate about whether he'd handled it. He hadn't, despite the big screen saying he had, and the goal stood. But Watford missed chance after chance after chance on the break in the second half. They still haven't won. They should have won here. Spurs 1, Watford 1.
Yeah, 1-1 was the final score there. Still just one win in their last 7 games for Tottenham. Next up, let's get the full time from Wolves against Southampton. Alex Winter.
Wolves 1, Southampton 1. A much better point for Saints, you feel, after 3 straight league defeats. Danny Ings put them ahead at the start of the second half with his 6th goal of the season. A cool finish after a mistake in the Wolves defence. But the home side level from the penalty spot just after the hour mark. Matt Doherty set off on a mazy run and went down under the most minimal of contact. The decision upheld by VAR, and Raul Jimenez rolling the spot kick to grab a point. Wolves 1, Southampton 1.
Maybe he went down under the most minimal of contact because he's sick of people calling him Doherty.
Yeah, this is absolutely
Doherty, yeah.
I mean, that's
just frustration got the better of him.
It's like, that's it, yeah.
Well, Ken Doherty is 50 now, and he's had to put up with it for a long, long time.
Well, speaking of Ken Doherty, there is a rather brilliant documentary on Ken Doherty's victory at the World Snooker Championship on Off the Ball tomorrow from 3 o'clock that Shane Hannon has put together. Well worth checking out. Let's go to Villa Park. There's been some late drama between Aston Villa and Brighton.
Full time, Aston Villa 2, Brighton 1. It was the visitors who took the lead in the first half. Adam Webster with a free header at the back post. Conor Hourihane thought he'd equalised, but VAR ruled that one out for a foul in the build-up. But Captain Jack Grealish scoring in first half added time in, showing he went in level. The second half was largely eventful. The 10 men of Brighton resolute in defence, but willing to attack on the counter-attack. Villa very wasteful in goal, but in the 94th minute, Grealish, driving force for the home side all afternoon, drove into the box, laid in Matt Targett, who drilled it in from a tight angle. His first ever Villa goal, all 3 points and back-to-back wins for Dean Smith's side. Full-time, Aston Villa 2, Brighton 1.
They're enjoying themselves at Villa Park.
Sweet Caroline should be banned at this stage. And Seven Nation Army.
Sorry, that's the theme tune. That's the theme tune for this show, Kieran.
Seven Nation Army is.
And for his last appearance on Off the Ball.
Yeah, Kieran, it's been great having you. Tomorrow we're going to have live commentary of Manchester United against Liverpool from 4:30. Reaction to all the rugby on the newspaper review with Cliona Foley and Dennis Hurley, and that Shane Hannon documentary and Ken Doherty is at 3 o'clock. Stephen Kelly, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Those Twitter numbers are skyrocketing. Kieran Cunningham.
Off the balls.
Thanks, sir.
Kieran, good luck. You're never coming back.
Okay.
And Dan, we'll finish up with
we'll
finish up in a text message from Michael, which I think on this day, above all days, sums it up. He said, "Let's face it, lads, we're just brutal at sport." We'll talk to you tomorrow at 1. Good luck.